Welcome back to my video series on Essentials 101, where we discuss the basics of the Classical Conversations Essentials program. This is part 2, in which we will be discussing the 3 parts of Essentials on Community Day. There are 3 parts to the Essentials program, but your tutor will decide what order they will occur at your community on Co-op Day. The first part of Essentials is EEL, which stands for the Essentials of the English Language. This is what is presented in that huge binder that you purchased from Classical Conversations. In EEL, the student will dive into a thorough study of the English grammar. This includes the art of diagramming sentences, as well as learning and applying spelling and capitalization rules. And basically, EEL covers the bare mechanics of writing a proper sentence. Note that we are, again, here using the term grammar. Where have we heard this before? Well, when we discussed the classical model of the trivium in part 1 of this series. So the term grammar is used to denote the first stage of the trivium. Before I was ever involved in Classical Conversations, when I heard the word grammar, I thought of English grammar, such as nouns and verbs. But now that I've been in Classical Conversations for a year, I know that when I hear the word grammar, it could mean multiple things. It could be in reference to the Foundations program itself, or it could just be used to mean the material we're memorizing in Foundations. Or it could be referring to the first stage of the trivium. So when you hear the word grammar, you should be thinking building blocks, the basics. The fundamental knowledge of any subject that has to be understood before proceeding to the next stage of understanding. And so with that insight, it made me realize how fitting it is to refer to the study of basic language components as grammar, as in English grammar. The basics of the English language includes elements such as nouns, verbs, conjunctions, etc., and how they relate to one another. That's why it's called English grammar. It's our English language broken down into the most fundamental elements. On Community Day, EEL usually takes up about 45 minutes of class time in the Essentials program. Math drills consume about 30 minutes of class time on Community Day. The goal of these drills or games is to help the student learn to hold numbers in their head and to do increasingly difficult math computations. Of course, if this is your student's first year in Essentials, they might want to start out with a paper and pencil, and this might be up to your tutor's decision. But eventually, the goal is for them to be able to do the math problems in their head, and this is accomplished by playing games, namely one called Board Slam. Another 45 minutes of Community Day will be spent focusing on IEW, which is short for the Institute for Excellence in Writing. This video will not go into depth explaining IEW because your community will host entire video sessions throughout the year to teach you, the teacher, how to present IEW to your student during the week. Now, I want to point out something that might be confusing for first-time parents and students. I know it was for me. The overall Essentials program has 3 parts, as we just discussed. But notice how the first of the 3 parts of the Essentials program is itself called the Essentials of the English Language. So when someone says Essentials, they could be referring to the entire 3-part program or just one part of it, often called EEL. And this is why defining your terms is so important. When someone says Essentials, you may need to ask them exactly what they are referring to, just EEL or the entire Essentials program. In the next part of this series, we will focus in on EEL specifically.